Hello, this is Jamie Magridge. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card. These are gold embossed. Let's get started. So, for consumables, I have a scrap of gold foil. I have a piece of gold foil which is a little over ½ inch. It's like 5/8 of an inch. I have a scrap of white which is a ½ inch to stamp sentiment on. I have 2 pieces of Whisper White. This one is 2 5/8 by 5.5, or 5 1/4 it is. It's 5 1/4. I've it written down wrong. And this one is 1 5/8 by 5 1/4. I have a piece of gold foil which is 4 1/4 by 5.5, and I have my card base which is 5.5 by 8.5 scored and folded at 4 1/4. I'm going to be using the greenery embossing folder. Again, I'm going to be using this one. I'm going to be using this die from In the Woods, and I'm using Loyal Leaves. I'm just going to be using this stamp, and I'm going to use Thank You on this card. On the previous card, the sample, I used Itty Bitty Greeting, a sentiment, Hey Friend from Itty Bitty Greetings, but you can use any sentiment you want. I'm also going to be using gold embossing powder and versamark and memento ink. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take this die out, and on that scrap paper, scrap of gold, I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine, and I'm going to get this piece here. Okay. Now I'm going to take the smaller of the white pieces, the 1 1/8 by 5 1/4 inch piece, and I'm going to run it through this embossing folder. When you put it in, just try and line it up so that it's centered on one of these lines. It just looks a little bit nicer. But okay, and I will be right back. I'm going to go run that through my machine. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I got that now. So let's put these aside. Pick it up. Bring this piece in, which is 2 5/8 by 5 1/4. I'm going to bring this piece in too, since we're stamping. We're going to treat this one with the embossing buddy, just because we don't want the embossing powder to stick any place we don't want it. With versamark ink, we're going to bring in this leaf. And I'm going to start by stamping it right here in the center of this side of the card. It's really hard to see. Now I'm going to ink it up again, and I'm going to go right above where I just stamped. I'm going to ink again, and I'm going to go right directly below where I just stamped. If it's easier, put the powder on it each time, the embossing powder, so you can actually see where it is. Then I'm going to do one on either side of it. So I'm going to do, I can see them because they're a little shiny, but if you can't, just put that powder on. Fly away here. It's not getting into the video. One more over here. And you want these to all be going the same direction, or you could change it up, I suppose, and have them go different directions. This just makes it have a clean look. Okay. Now we're going to bring in our embossing powder. And this is the gold embossing powder. You can use any color you want. Sprinkle that on. Alright, I got a little bit of an edge there because I must have pushed too hard. Let me bring in a paintbrush. Just wipe that off with a paintbrush. A little bit right here too. Wipe it off. Okay. Let's put this back in. Excuse me. Bring in my heat tool, my cutting board, so I don't work my station, and it also helps to disperse the heat a little bit. Okay. I'm going to heat emboss this until it gets all nice and shiny. There it goes. So you can see that. If your heat gun is hot, it'll go much faster. Just heat a little bit, and then once it gets shiny, move to another section that's not melted yet. Give it a quick once over, make sure I didn't miss anything. But you don't want to heat it too much. Right, that away. Alright. Now the only other thing we need to do is stamp our sentiment on this little strip here. And we're going to use memento for this. You could use gold as well, but I just wanted it to stand out. So I'm going to stamp this thank you. Perfect. I'm going to bring in this little piece of gold here. I'm going to line these two up so that the tail, the flat edge here is the same, lined up. So I'm going to cut the tails in it at the same time. Bring in my snips. I'm going to cut to the center, maybe 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to go from the corner to that center. From the corner to that center. Since I did them together, when I pull this back, I'm going to have the perfect border all the way around. Okay, so let's bring in our I'm going to use Tombow. Put some Tombow on this. Oops, a little bit more than I need. Let's see if I can push it around a little. Mount this on top of here. Okay, this is a little bit long. I'm just going to leave it long. I'm just going to snip this extra white off. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my card base and this gold foil. I'm going to mount this to the front of my card. And for this, I think I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal. Because then I know I'm not going to get any of those glue lines. Because this is not Stampin' Up cardstock. This is just gold foil paper. It's the same size as the front of my card. Ah, very crooked. Oh, I'm crinkling it. Hopefully it's not going to show too bad. Come on. Thank you. Try that again. Let's move this so that you can actually see what I can see what I'm doing. There we go. Okay, that's better. Okay, now we're going to bring in this piece. Some glue on the back of it. And I'm going to have like an 1/8 of an inch border on the 3 sides. Place that down. I'm going to bring in the piece that we embossed. Put the glue on the back of it. And that's going to go on this side. Cover up that wrinkle that I put in the paper. Okay. And we're going to put some dimensionals on the back of our sentiment. Put our fingers in to pop those edges up and take that backing paper off. I'm going to set this down here where I want it. And then I'm going to trim this off, even with the edge of this white piece behind it. It's a little bit crooked. That's better. Okay. I'm going to come in with this piece. And I think I'm going to use small dimensionals for this. I'm going to put 1 dimensional on the back of each one of these leaves. I'm going to take those backs off. This is going to get tucked in right here. Have the one leaf kind of over the banner a little bit. Okay, and I did forget to tell you we're going to use Gilted Gems. I'm going to use 1 of each size. So I'm going to take 1 of the large ones, and I'm going to put it up here. Take 1 of the middle ones, put it here. And 1 of the small ones, put it right next to it. There we go. There's the card we just made together. And here's the one I did previously. Well, thank you so much for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.